Welcome to Elite Expert Insider Podcast, where we will inspire, motivate, and educate entrepreneurs, innovators, and growth seekers. Brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, making the best and brightest in the industry #1 best-selling authors. 80% of people say they want to write a book. We're assuming that's the same for you. If so, contact us at www.eliteonlinepublishing.com and make your book a reality. Johnson here with Elite Online Publishing. We've got another great interview for you today. We're going to learn a lot of really cool stuff. One of our favorite authors, we published him and he became a #1 best-selling author with one of the fastest reading novels. It was when we got his book, I could not put it down. There's a lot of intrigue in it. We're going to dive deep into that in just a minute. And my partner, Jen Foster's here. How you doing, Jen?
Hey, guys.
So we want to remind you before we get started, first of all, to subscribe to the podcast, because we always have the coolest guest on. You learn something, you get inspired, you get motivated. Basically, you're going to walk away and your life's going to be better every time you listen to one of our podcasts. So make sure you subscribe, and we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a note. And if you're thinking about writing a book, we've got a new book out ourselves called The 7 Costly Mistakes When Picking Your Publisher. So read that so you'll know the difference between traditional publishing and regular publishing, and find out what's the best option for you. And of course, we'd love to publish your book. And if you'd like to submit it, go to our website at eliteonlinepublishing.com. All right, let's dive into it. We got Joe Wilkerson with us here today, and he has written the book, The Color of Fire. And I have to tell you, I couldn't put this book down when I started to read it. When he submitted it to us, I just could not put it down. Joe is a speaker. He is not just a speaker, he's a preacher. He runs several Bible studies. He has a background in the military, and he's dealt with some really bad people. So he has a lot of insights, and overall, you're going to learn how to answer a lot of maybe spiritual questions that you have been looking for the answers for a long, long time. So, Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here with y'all.
All the way from Oklahoma.
Yeah, all the way from Oklahoma. Well, tell us, Joe, a little bit about yourself and what was the ideas that came into your head to get you to write this novel?
Well, basically, you coming out of the military and law enforcement and working with those types of men who believe in their own personal strength and their own ability to fire a weapon to protect themselves, we tend to lean solely on self and our buddies around us. And during those experiences, I began to realize that there's something beyond us. There's something out there that's greater than ourselves. And not that we shouldn't lean on ourselves. We should. Not that we don't fight for one another and work hard at saving each other's lives, but which we do and we should do. These men should do, but that becomes an end all. It is the camaraderie, it's the brotherhood that saves my life. But we forget about the most important thing, is that's the saving of the soul. And during these processes, I began to realize that we didn't have a whole lot of soul-saving issues going on. And so basically, when I became a Christian, I wanted to express that in a unique way back to these men who serve as literally our heroes and our saviors in many respects, not discounting Jesus Christ, but letting them know that they're an arm of Christ in that saving process. So that's kind of where it came from.
That's wonderful. I love that, how you tied that in. So tell me, when you started to write the book, you always came across even your own personal growth and journey down this spiritual journey that a lot of people have a lot of questions. What are some of the things that people have aha moments when they're reading your book that they've expressed to you?
One of the things is that they don't believe this life is out there. They don't believe that there's people who lose their lives to trafficking or to the sex slave traffic scenario. They don't really see bad people in their lives. And that's the majority of Americans, is that the majority of Americans, very few of them really come in contact with a bad guy, which, thank God for America, that's not true in many other countries. But because of that, they don't see the reality of it. So that's one of the things that the book has addressed, is the reality of these issues. The second thing is like I said, there's a lot of questions about God, and here I am, a trigger puller, and how does God deal with me as a trigger puller? I've killed men, or I'm saying that generally with these men in this business. They may have had to take a life. They may have done some despicable things to get information so that they could find the innocent people that they're looking for. And so the end result is they don't feel qualified to speak to God or to acknowledge God in their life because of the things they've had to do. So that's been some of the responses. Another one is I had a man call me on the phone. I don't even know how he got my phone number, actually. And he called me and he said, your book has answered so many of the spiritual questions that I had. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And he said, no one answered these questions. And some of them are, I'm supposed to be this very, very kind person. And Jesus says you love everybody. And so we're all gushing with love and we hold each other. And yet, I just knocked this guy's teeth out because he was holding a hostage, or I shot him, or
Right.
how do I deal with that? I know I'm supposed to be a nice guy, but I had to shoot that man. So how do we deal with that? Well, the book does some good in answering those questions for these war fighters who don't feel, because of what they have done, they don't feel like they have a place in a church, or that because they had to do that, they're never going to be kind again, or they're never going to be accepted for being a good man again. That's just a fallacy that the world has lied to these men about. And so I'm hoping that the book, I've had that response already, that the book has addressed that in some men's lives, and it's been a very positive thing for them.
That's great. Well, and I really loved, the book, The Color of Fire. When I first read it, when I got the manuscript, I couldn't put it down. Like Melanie said, I just kept reading and reading. But I think the thing for me as a woman, just even the scripture references that you put in there and the way that you explain things, and the descriptions that you have about, the small town and the way that all this rolled out. We won't reveal anything. We'd let people go read the book. But how it all laid out, it really hit home, because I actually hear of stories that this is happening, but like you said, you don't see it. You don't really meet those bad people, but you hear about it. You hear like that it is going on, the trafficking.
That's right. And and this is another thing that people don't realize, it's a funny thing that I realized when I was in law enforcement is that cops are usually the last guys to find out what bad things are happening in your neighborhood. And then and a lot of people say, well, if I would have known, if I would have known to tell the police up front, they could have done something here. I would have told them a lot sooner. But evil and the evil that we experience in the world is like concentric circles. It's like a little pebble dropped in a pond where the circles go out, the ripples go out and out and out. And the farther you get away from that epicenter, the less you experience that destruction. But the funny thing is the next ripple in experienced it, and those people. And the next ripple in experienced it even deeper, and somebody knows those people, on and on and on. So you're really never that truly far away from it. What we have to do, and what the next book is going to be about, is the color of deception, is how we are deceived into ignoring the horror that happened to our neighbor, or the horror that happened at the Walmart when kids were kidnapped, or whatever the case may be, where evil exposes itself. We're deceived by that lie that it can't happen to us, and because it can't happen to me, it didn't really happen to you. And so we insulate ourselves from truth. And so I hope that made sense. I'm not sure it did, but that's kind of the thought of that, is that we remove ourselves from that truth and we ignore it.
I think until someone slaps it in your face. I met a friend at an event a couple weeks ago, and she was saying just in our neighborhood, the high school neighborhood, that they're having girls that are being kidnapped and put into human trafficking. And it's a really nice neighborhood, and you wouldn't think that it'd be right down the street from your own home. But until someone lets you know that, hey, this is happening, you don't realize it. So, and I have to say, Joe's talked a lot about how the book helps people who have been in the military, who have been in the police, and to kind of come to grips with that. But Jen and I are both single moms, and we couldn't put the book down because it really has the intrigue of, the criminal aspect, that you're wondering what's happening next, if people's lives are being affected. It draws you into that, along with there's the churches involved and people of spiritual nature involved, and they get the wool pulled over their eyes at the same time. So it just really keeps you going, and it's very interesting as the story unfolds. And I think as anyone, if you're reading that and what Joe was saying about the ripple effect, it really has, it opens your eyes to that. And all right, I'm going to say one more comment about Joe too. So Joe is this rough tumble guy. You can see him. He's built well. He's been in the military. He's been in the police. And when I opened this book, the question I asked you was, are you sure you wrote this book? Because there's all this romance in it too. And it's just like, it has all this romance. And you're like, really? Is this the guy that I met that's this rough guy that has this romance and all this intrigue into the story? It's really pretty amazing. So, so I highly recommend it for that. But tell us, I know you had, how did the heart of the story come about to you? I mean, you knew you wanted to write this, but how did you put it all together?
Well, that's an interesting question, because, my whole response to that really is that I believe God wanted it written down. Not that I'm special or the book is really all that tremendously special. Like it's going to change. It's going to change nations or something, but it was it flowed pretty easy, actually. It didn't take very long to write it, and I didn't sit down and do what a lot of authors do, make all these notes and outline the book and get all their characters together. I know all the characters in the book. I know the situations that happened, and so when I sat down and wrote, it was like I was writing a letter, actually, and it just grew into this book. And the background of that was that need to say to this warfighter or this law enforcement officer, there's hope for you. This is truth. There is a real God who has a life that he wants you to experience beyond the horror at times of your life. It's like a friend of mine said one time. He was a pilot, and I asked him. I said, "Well, how was your flight?" And he says, "Oh, it was 25 hours of absolute boredom and 13 seconds of sheer terror." And that's the life of a law enforcement officer. Oftentimes, that's the life of a warfighter. So the end result is that I wanted to address the 13 seconds of life that we cannot understand, that we look back at it and say, what happened? Was there anything that I could do to change that? And the truth of the matter is the bad guy makes the decision. I don't. The bad guy kept coming, and in order for him to stop, I had to do these things. and to accept the fact that you were the hand of God at that moment to save lives or to to redirect that bad man's approach to doing bad things. So that's so as far as the writing of the book goes, I think it just really flowed out of me, not only from a position of it was better than sitting down with a counselor and saying, I think I have a problem here, but it really helped me put things in perspective in my life. So I'm hoping it does the same for some of the women that read it.
Yeah, for me, for sure it was. So I thought it was excellent. And I've actually lent it to a couple of friends and they loved it as well. So it's a great, good thriller. Love it. Loved it.
Right.
And I think you made a good point about that it was therapy for you and it was better than having therapy. And we tell people that if one of the best things about writing a book, whether it's for your company or it's about a personal journey, sometimes I think, I don't think I need therapy anymore. Like I'm in a place now that I finished the book, I feel entirely different about the situation.
Yeah, exactly. It actually helped me realize that, especially what helped me more than anything else. I didn't know if the book was any good. And I've read a lot of books. I read a lot. But I just didn't know if the book was any good because it came from me. And you never, I hope I'm not a narcissist. So I don't think that everything I do is all that great. But after people, and one person in particular, you ladies encouraged me greatly. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I have a very wise sister in my life, and she's encouraged me greatly. But I've got a family member who's kind of my hero. He was in the military for 22 years and was also a homicide investigator for almost 30 years. And he did his military time and went into the reserves and was called up several times during his reserve service, and was also in law enforcement as a homicide investigator. One of my real heroes, and he's a magnificent guy, very very wise man. He's a doctorate in law enforcement in law. I'm not real sure what he teaches, but he teaches young police officers at the University of Eastern New Mexico University, and he's their doctorate of law enforcement on the campus. And I can't say enough great things about him. But his response to the book really was a powerful response to me. And so that was the driving force to get me to say, well, that was a good book. Let me do another book from a different perspective that deals with a different struggle that we have that men have in this scenario. So it's just great to know that people enjoyed the book and it was helpful.
Good. Well, Joe, tell us where we can find you.
Well, you may have to say that because I didn't write that down.
Yeah, I was going to say, the best place to find Joe's book is on Amazon, and you can find that at amazon.com/author JMW. That's where you can find that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's let me give you a little quick picture of the book. Color of Fire. How does that look?
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, and get that #1 bestseller thing in there. So please go buy it and contact me. I think you can on the website. Y'all may have to say the website too, because I can't remember what that is. How do you like that? It's from getting hit in the head too many times. But yeah, we can communicate through that. Through the what is it that y'all set up for me here?
And Amazon. Yeah, you can go ahead and leave a review on Amazon. and Joe can leave comments there.
Yeah, great.
Terrific. Thanks for coming on, Joe. And again, the book is a fast read. If you start it at night, expect to stay up until it's done because you won't want to put it down. So we really appreciate you coming on, and you'll be enlightened, enthralled, mystified. There's romance, there's intrigue, there's crime, there's passion, and there's God. You never get those combinations all together. We just think it's a really unique combination.
Yeah, you can also follow JMW on Amazon or on Facebook, so you can check out Color of Fire on Facebook as well.
Yep. So I would say all those combinations, you say it's hard to find in one book, but I have to say it happens in life all the time. So it's really cool that it's in a book, and then that's what's so relatable about it. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We'd love to have you subscribe, and you'll hear about all our other great guests. And if you're looking to write a book and become a #1 best-selling author like Joe, we would love to help you. Just go to eliteonlinepublishing.com, and you can fill out a form there, and we'll give you a call. So, and we have our book, The 7 Costly Mistakes to when you're picking a publisher. So this is great information when you're looking for a publisher on what you should ask, the great questions and the pros and cons of all the different types of publishers that are out there. Of course, we think we're the best publisher. We do a great job and make all our authors #1 bestsellers. If you'd like to create the most powerful advertising tool for your business, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we will help you create, publish, and make your book a #1 bestseller, and show you how to get new leads and more revenue for your business. If you'd like to check us out on our Facebook page, we have a free book for you as our gift. Just go and click free book. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment for our podcast. We would love to hear from you.